yeah, in the spirit of this channel, rambling random shit as I think about stuff and sharing it. I think the thing a lot of founders deal with is just constantly being on some sort of level of stress, like a baseline level of stress. Constantly feeling a bit paranoid, at least for me. And I feel like a lot of people lose that when they get a bit of success. And I've definitely seen it, naming no names, like in my own circles, on Twitter and social media, certainly. People make the first few $100,000 personally, maybe first few million in revenue or more. And then they start buying fucking, crazy watches, heavily financed cars. And by the way, I was that guy originally, so I'm not saying I haven't been there. But I think I've now, had my major fuck up, which is hopefully my last one a few years ago, which I documented and obviously spoke about loads on this channel. And that's given me a new perspective. So in a way, with benefit of hindsight and a bit of maturity finally, I feel like, 2021, me fucking up massively, having that major fall off, going from, I think it was 13 million revenue across the two brands in 2020 with a lot of profit, about 7 figures profit as well, before everything fucked up. No investors, etc. Driving the Ferrari, the Range Rover, living in the penthouse flat, which isn't as expensive as it looks, by the way. But yeah, doing all that and then falling off and having a business go, heavily insolvent, trying to save it with a lot of my own money, losing a shitload of that, coming out with, not nothing, but a lot less than I thought I'd have at that stage and that age, and given how big the business had got. And then bouncing back definitely skewed my fucking personality and changed me a lot, which probably haven't spoke about enough on this channel. And I probably still deal with a lot of that, a lot of the kind of side effects of that in a way, some good, some bad. But it taught me a lot of brutal life lessons very early on, which I think a lot of people either maybe you're never going to have, and whatever, maybe I was unlucky, maybe I needed that and other people don't. But I think a lot of people will have those lessons in some way or another, maybe just later on or in a different scale or a different way. And yeah, I don't know, now I see a lot of people get super fancy after, a bit of success, and that doesn't align at all with true scale success people, on a smaller level, people like Ben Francis, Gymshark, they're not flashy at all, at least online. And certainly doesn't align with people like Elon, who, made, I think, 200 million, then went back to sleeping on his friend's couch or something. I don't know how exaggerated that is, but you get the point. They weren't retired, and people that love the game stay in the game and want to win for the sake of winning. And I'm not saying that's necessarily me until I'm fucking 100 years old, but it definitely is for the next 10 years plus. So yeah, I don't know what I'm getting at. I feel like you need to stay paranoid because shit can always change very quickly. And I realised that, and it taught me a lot, and I think it's made me, increase my humility, made me a better operator, etc. And really great founders do it for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. They don't do it for 2 years, think they're the complete shit, and then not do it again, which is what I think a lot of people, there's guys, and I'm not naming any names, I'm thinking of specific people that have been in the industry 2 years, not even 2 years, had a bit of success with their agency, their brand, and they're out hosting masterminds, giving advice to everyone. And I find that shit crazy because they're genuinely beginners, and they probably haven't even paid their first tax bill. So yeah, it's kind of crazy. And I think the other thing as well is there's always going to be that, more hungry, broke guy who's willing to work 24/7, and you're not when you get a bit comfy, or at least a lot of people don't seem like they are. And they're the people that are going to beat you. So I think the early version of you, the reason that a lot of people got to where they are was doing things that they no longer do because their life's got a bit comfier. And I'm not saying you have to live that way forever. When I was younger, me and Fred from Sanucci, who's never been on the podcast, but we lived together in my first hustle house, I guess, in London 6 years ago now, crazy. Coming up to 6 years ago, 5.5 years ago. And we would get up, competition to get up at 4 a.m. and fucking work at our desks until 7 p.m. It might not have been that early, but it was very fucking early. And we thought that was how you win. And it's not necessarily the most productive way to do things, but that attitude is how you win. And it's being willing to be all in. None of the fancy shit. We weren't, didn't have the cars then, didn't have any of the watches or any of the bullshit that I went on to have and then lose a lot of and then start again. But yeah, I think, that's the attitude that gets people where they want to go. And then I think you need to keep a bit of that paranoia, that kind of fuck, if I don't make this work, then I'm not in a good spot. And that back against the wall feeling. And I got that back again in 2021 when I did lose most of what I had, or at least a huge chunk of it. And it just made me paranoid. Probably less enjoyable way to live, but it's a much more effective way to live as a founder, I think, because you should always be a bit stressed, paranoid about what's around the corner, because even when things are crushing it, nothing lasts forever. But on the other side, when things are bad, I now know that also doesn't last forever, because I've dug myself out of the hole that I was in, and there's been many more mini holes since then. I'm sure there will be again, but hopefully not as big. But ultimately, what you're willing to put in, the decisions you make, the shit you sacrifice day to day is what keeps you either on the good side or the bad side of that, I suppose. I don't know what I'm getting at. I think I've just been thinking about this a lot, and hopefully it makes sense. Probably slightly incoherent because I'm fucking tired. And yeah, I also see like a lot of founders, again, naming no names, but there's an example in my mind for every one of these. I think it's a red flag when founders start spending most of their time at fucking PR or networking events, influencer events and all that shit, and just like partying too much with it all. And like, I get that maybe they've hired a team, and some of these have, some of these haven't, but I think you need to stay founder mode in the best way, which is involved in every part of the business to some extent. And I think the second you stop doing that, your life becomes too fluffy. Maybe you're more bothered about the fucking beanbags in the office than your fucking CAC or your P&L. And yeah, I'm just not a fan of that, because I think people get too fancy far too quick in their lives, but also in their businesses. And this is speaking, I'm saying things that I've learned from people much, much further ahead of me. This isn't me being some fucking, guru or speaking gospel, because, I only know as much as I know, and I'm still very inexperienced in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, I've had this stuff taught to me by people 20, 30 years ahead of me. So yeah, keep it focused on the main thing. It's not to say you can't enjoy life, but I just mean in the context of the business. When you're working, when you're in, which should be 90% of your life at least, when you're like at this stage, when you're locked in, then focus on moving the needle, hiring the right people, doing the right shit, not the fucking PR events and the founder dinners. And some of that's useful, but when that becomes your entire identity, I think that's usually when your numbers go backwards. And there's one brand in particular I know the numbers of objectively, and I'm thinking about them as an example. I'm not going to say them. But yeah, it's like you could have seen that coming 1,000 miles off, in my opinion. And there's other brands that are in my mind that have publicly gone bankrupt, or into administration is the official term, in the past few months in the UK. And I could see that coming a mile off as well, just from LinkedIn. And it begs the question, like, what the fuck was the founder doing if they're more focused on X thing, naming no names, than they were on, considering shareholders' interests and trying to secure the company financially? Because it's kind of crazy to me. But yeah, quite a lot of examples of that. And a bit of me in the past was probably that. I was still working a lot, but I probably got a bit too carried up in, I've made some money now, so let's host the big flat parties every weekend. Let's, drive the fancy cars. And I wasn't doing that all the time, but looking back 4 years on, there probably was a bit of that. And it maybe didn't help the situation I got myself into. So yeah, I guess what I'm saying is, it seems like most people after some success aren't willing to live simply and sacrifice their ego, in the short term. And I went through that arc, like I said, and I got too fancy with it. And really, you should keep the main thing. And yeah, think big, act small. Like, if your business is doing 20 million, it's still a fucking small business. That's how you should think. And you're not an Apple, you're not a Tesla, you're not even a Gymshark. So yeah, I think the solution, what I'm trying to say is, the thing I've learned, the thing I've seen in the most successful people, and the least, and the ones that have got it wrong and gone the wrong way eventually, at least the legit people, because by the way, a lot of people online, in fact most people online that are flexing a lot, are not who they say they are, not doing what they say they are. So bear that in mind as well. But real winners, long term, I think you have to always be on edge, always be a bit paranoid, because shit can change super quick, for better or worse, and your actions and your mindset kind of determines which side of the coin that's going to be on. So yeah, it's something I'm reflecting on. It's not to say you can't enjoy life, it's not to say you can't take days off. I need to do more of that, to be honest, but I think it's just really winning long term is what I've seen in the best people, is they're not flexing, they're working on the business, and that's what it takes. So yeah, I don't know, 10 minutes of rambling. It's pretty late here. I thought I hadn't made a video in a week. My last one got quite a lot of views, even though it was a shit video. So I'll make another one. Maybe I'll just ramble a few times. This channel is basically just me sharing my thoughts at this point. It's not even necessarily about the business. I'm just a guy in my 20s trying to get rich legitimately, build cool shit, work with cool people, enjoy the process maybe more than I have in the past few years, but also reflecting on a lot of the learnings I've had, which have been many learnings. I always joke that, and I think this is probably genuinely true to some extent, but I take the piss out of myself and say I'm like the least financially successful person relative to how much I've learned and the things I've done and the experiences I've been through. So hopefully that's going to catch up with itself. And it's been like bamboo. Hopefully it'll be like bamboo when it eventually really cracks. Because I think I'm getting there. I feel like I'm getting momentum to where I want to be in the next few years, but it's never enough, is it? Because the goalposts keep moving. So anyway, winners win. Good to chat. Subscribe to the pod. Catch you in the next one. Peace. Bye.